Greetings and salutations. Today we'll be covering the mysterious death of John McAfee. John David McAfee was a captivating figure who was best known for his pioneering work in cybersecurity, along with his eccentric lifestyle. Born in September 18, 1945, he would embark on a remarkable journey which encompassed both technological innovation and, briefly, political aspirations. In 1987, McAfee authored the integral commercial antivirus software, which was a milestone that led to the establishment of McAfee Associates, a company founded to market his groundbreaking creation. Nevertheless, in 1994, he relinquished his role within the company and divested his remaining ownership stakes. What ensued after this was a striking transformation, with McAfee evolving into one of the most vocal critics of the very product he had birthed, urging consumers to rid themselves of what he would eventually deem as bloatware, the company's very own antivirus software. The financial tumult of the 2007-08 crisis left a significant dent in McAfee's fortunes. After his tenure at McAfee Associates, he ventured into a series of enterprises, including the Powwow Chat program and Hortum EX. It would be noted that his interests spanned a diverse realm, from cryptocurrency to smartphone apps, from yoga to even recreational drug use. A defining chapter in McAfee's life unfolded in Belize, where he resided for an extended period of time. However, his return to the United States was marked by a shadow of suspicion, as Belize sought to question him regarding an ongoing murder investigation. Later in the year 2020, he was met by legal entanglements. McAfee would even find himself behind bars in Spain, facing charges of tax evasion within the United States. Accusations would arise that he had failed to file income taxes over a span of 4 years. Then, mysteriously, on June 23, 2021, McAfee would be discovered lifeless in his prison cell near Barcelona. Apparently, authorities say it was by his own hand. His death quickly stirred speculation and conspiracies, casting doubt on the official narrative of self-termination. Janice McAfee, his wife, vocally contested the notion that her husband would self-terminate, in part due to his myriad of statements surrounding his distaste for such a fate. However, the enigma surrounding McAfee continues, spanning from his pioneering inventions and investments to his legal troubles and ending with his untimely demise. John David McAfee was a British-born man of the 80s who etched his name in the annals of cybersecurity through founding the McAfee Association, a software company celebrated as the paragon of consumer computer security. Intrigue into his life deepens in 1994, when McAfee decided to step away from the company he sired, leaving it to ascend to unparalleled heights in his absence. Astonishingly enough, as things progressed, he would distance himself further from his own creation, culminating in a rebranding which was christened Intel Security after Intel, the computer chip behemoth, which had acquired McAfee Associates for a staggering $7.7 billion in 2010. Eventually, McAfee would become so fed up with the very product he had created that he would become an advocate for individuals wanting to eliminate it from their computers, referring to it as bloatware, essentially believing it worked more as a virus than actual cybersecurity software. However, that is not what drove him to be worthy of note in the eyes of many. What did was his post-resignation escapades, which were marked by a whirlwind of business ventures which were often short-lived, yet they were consistently intriguing. He ventured into the realm of instant messaging systems, as he tried his hand at firewall provisions, and even a venture into providing flights on trikes, which were cabins suspended beneath hang gliders. Yet the true tempest commenced when McAfee charted his course southward to the beautiful country of Belize, where he would found Hortum EX, a company with an audacious mission, developing herbal antibiotics designed to disrupt corium sensing in bacteria. In May 2012, Belize's gang suppression unit would lead a raid on McAfee's residence, believing he had set a laboratory up in order to manufacture methamphetamine. While the authorities did not turn up any illicit drugs, they had allegedly found McAfee producing antibiotics in that lab without a license. Officers would also catalog an arsenal of handguns and shotguns, which belonged to McAfee, as they arrested 2 of his security guards, along with McAfee and his then-girlfriend Samantha Vanegas being briefly detained then released. Afterward, McAfee would speak to Gizmodo in an interview, noting that he was targeted for not contributing money to a local politician, stating it was simply a message saying, "Look, don't mess with us when we ask you for something. Give it to us." 7 months later, Belize police officials sought McAfee again, this time wanting to know about his neighbor, a former Florida native who was found shot to death in his home, right next to McAfee's compound. Prior to his assassination, Faull had reportedly complained about McAfee's vicious dogs, 4 of which ended up getting poisoned and had to be put down, rather suspiciously. McAfee would be named a person of interest, and he would go into hiding and ultimately flee Belize. While on the run, he would speak to newspaper reporters from undisclosed locations, proclaiming his innocence and accusing the Belize Prime Minister Dean Barrow and other government officials of wanting him dead. Said Prime Minister dismissed the allegations, stating that McAfee was extremely paranoid. However, later, his passport and his weapons were both confiscated. His remaining dogs would meet a tragic end at the hands of law enforcement, and he found himself briefly behind bars. The allegations of unlicensed drug manufacturing and illegal weapons possession, however, didn't stick. It must be noted that when he had been caught, he would seek out asylum. However, he would be arrested in Guatemala in December, and he would be denied political asylum from Guatemala. And in a twist to this perplexing narrative, McAfee would resort to a most unexpected stratagem, which he would explain to reporters by stating he faked a heart attack to buy his lawyer time to get him back stateside, all the while parlaying the media circus around him into making money off of cryptocurrency and cybersecurity tech projects, which included a gambit into making people believe that he had hacked the encrypted messaging service WhatsApp using cell phones with pre-installed malware. It must also be noted that McAfee charged digital crypto coin makers $105,000 US per tweet to promote their cryptocurrencies. One such tweet would be sent on November 30th, 2019, where McAfee played off of the paranoia that he had portrayed for years in stating that the US government was out to get him. However, this tweet was structured in a way to unabashedly advertise a cryptocurrency token. Now that he was within the US, it would seem that McAfee would continue to firmly entrench himself in the public consciousness. In 2015, McAfee would announce that he was going to run as a candidate for president under the recently formed Cyber Party later that year. He would eventually switch his ticket to the Libertarian Party, and he would again, in the year 2020, seek the nomination of the Libertarian Party. However, this time his campaign would be run from exile. This was because at that point, McAfee had been on the run for months after he had publicly disclosed on Twitter that he had not filed tax returns for nearly a decade. He was also facing $25 million in damages stemming from his loss of a wrongful death lawsuit filed against him by Faull's family. Much to no one's surprise, they indeed were actively being investigated by the IRS for felony tax evasion. Later, in October 2020, McAfee would be arrested in Spain at the behest of the United States government. The Spanish authorities had apprehended McAfee and his third wife, Janice, as they were about to board a plane. Federal prosecutors would go on to officially indict McAfee for not paying $4.2 million in taxes between 2014 and 2018, while his assets had been hidden. He stood accused of failing to file tax returns. This was despite of having raked in millions from his consulting. The charges were looking rather grim, while he had spent about 9 months in the Barcelona prison, the U.S. Security and Exchange Commissions would hit him with another indictment, this time alleging fraud and money laundering tied to the cryptocurrency promotions he had been doing, and even the sale of his life rights. He was also accused of concealing assets such as yachts and real estates, amongst other things. In March, McAfee would be indicted on additional charges of fraud, where the United States government was alleging that he and his business partner, in essence, swindled $13 million or more from investors by promoting said cryptocurrencies. As the additional charges came in, McAfee would file for aid from foreign governments in order to resist extradition to the United States, claiming he faced political persecution. After having spent months in captivity within the walls of a penitentiary in Barcelona, the European country's national court ruled that McAfee would be sent back to America. The court would go so far as to state that there was no data or indication that Mr. McAfee could be subjected to any political persecution. Later that same day, at around 1 p.m., prison guards would find the 75-year-old hanging in his cell. Spanish authorities ruled the death a self-termination. However, those who knew McAfee had doubts about this death. His criminal defense attorney, Javier Villaba, said his client showed no signs of wanting to self-terminate. El País reported, "We are outraged," Javier said. According to Spanish newspapers, he would also state, "We are going to get to the bottom of this." In a post made on Twitter 2 weeks after his death, McAfee's widow, Janice, stated that she did not accept his death as a self-termination, saying this story was spread by the malignant cancer that is the mainstream media. It was an abrupt and tragic end for McAfee, who had spent the last years of his life trying to stay one step ahead of the law. The suddenness of his death and the circumstances surrounding his persona has led to a series of conspiracy theories forming around him, from him having suffered the same fate that Epstein did, to a theory where he had secretly faked his own death and escaped to live in Texas under an assumed identity. However, until now, this has proven to be little more than conjecture. He just happened to be a man who had on multiple occasions stated that if he was found dead, it was not self-termination, but at the hands of another actor, going so far as to tattoo the phrase "whacked" onto his arm to symbolize this. To better understand this case, a timeline can be made with the information provided. From 2008 to 2010, John McAfee relocates to Belize, seeking refuge from personal injury lawsuits and for a stated financial privacy. At this time, he amasses a fortune in overseas accounts. May 2012, Belize authorities raid McAfee's compound, suspecting a methamphetamine production facility. However, no drugs were found, yet there was evidence of unlicensed antibiotic production having occurred. November 2012, Gregory Faull, McAfee's neighbor, is found shot to death. Faull had had previous complaints to the local government about McAfee's supposedly vicious dogs. Later that same year, McAfee states he has gone into hiding due to supposedly believing he was a target due to his refusal to contribute money to a local politician. December 2012, McAfee is arrested in Guatemala. However, he narrowly escapes extradition to Belize, in part by feigning multiple heart attacks. December 2012, McAfee is deported to Miami, where he reveals that he faked the multiple heart attacks in order to avoid extradition long enough to have him deported to the US. 2015, McAfee announces his run for the US presidency as a candidate for the Cyber Party. Later, he would switch to the Libertarian Party. 2017, McAfee's personal wealth is diminished significantly due to a series of financial setbacks. 2019, McAfee publicly discloses on Twitter that he hasn't filed taxes for years. 2020, McAfee is arrested in Spain on charges of US tax evasion. Later, he is officially accused of failing to file returns for a total of 4 years. He is also indicted on fraud and money laundering charges related to cryptocurrency promotions. June 23, 2021, McAfee would be found dead in his Spanish prison cell, where it would be officially ruled a case of self-termination. August 5, 2022, Janice McAfee, his widow, expresses doubts about the official cause of death, vowing to seek a second autopsy and restitution, spurring a series of conspiracy theories surrounding this case. In In the world of cybersecurity, cryptocurrency, and international intrigue, the life and death of John McAfee remains a rather interesting affair. From his rise as a tech pioneer to his eccentric years as a fugitive, John McAfee's life story is one of unending curiosity. His mysterious death in a Spanish prison cell raises questions that may never be fully answered. Was it self-termination, as it was officially declared, or were there hidden forces at play, as he had implied prior to his untimely demise? As people continue to investigate deeper into his death, the enigma of John McAfee undoubtedly continues to captivate and mystify. It appears that the quest for truth remains as elusive as the man himself attempted to be for most of his final years. If you remained with me until the end, I thank you, and I do hope you stay tuned and subscribe for more content.